Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. When I was a child, I used to spend part of my summer, every summer, with my grandparents. My grandparents had been farmers, but when they got older, they moved to town. But my grandfather still kept 3 acres for himself that he still farmed. He grew all kinds of edible fruits and vegetables like carrots, potatoes, corn, tomatoes, all kinds of things. And if you know anything about acreage, 3 acres would feed a lot more than one family. So what he'd do as the fruits and vegetables got ripe is he'd go to the fields and pick out bagfuls of fruits and vegetables, and he'd bring them to town, and he just gave them away to people in the community that he lived in. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't charge for them. He just gave them away, these beautiful fruits and vegetables. Now what I'm going to say next may sound a little silly, but hang in there with me. It will have a very lucid and pertinent meaning in the end. Imagine if my grandfather had every summer gone out to his fields and planted weeds. Things that weren't edible, things that were bad for humans, perhaps poisonous, perhaps even things like hemlock that could actually kill a person. And then throughout the growing season, he would go to his fields, pick bag loads of these weeds and poisonous plants and give them to people. I mean, he would get in a lot of trouble, or people wouldn't like him, and he might even go to jail. Even if he just brought a bag of weeds to someone, they'd say, "Why are you bringing this to me? Get out of here. What's wrong with you?" So how is this story relevant to us? Because it is very relevant. Let's for a moment imagine that our minds are like my grandfather's field. We're both the gardener of our fields, or minds in this case, and also we're the ones that deliver what our fields or our minds produce every day to the people in our lives. When we plant something in a field, it doesn't care what we plant. It's going to make sure that it grows. That's its job. Our job is to plant it. Our job is to distribute it. But the field is going to grow whatever we plant. It's the exact same way with our minds. Whatever we plant in our minds throughout the day, throughout our lives, that's what's going to grow. Our minds are indifferent to what we plant in them. Our minds will grow poisonous weeds as easily as valuable crops. The power lies in what we plant. Our minds, like a field, don't have a bad content filter. It just makes grow whatever we plant. Let's take a moment and compare the two fields. If you've ever had a garden or visited a farm, you'll know that there's a lot of work to make that farm look good and grow healthy fruits and vegetables. Our minds, our lives are very similar. I would argue exactly similar. If you ever met someone that you just thought, that's a good person, that's a good soul, they are definitely someone that I love to emulate. I can guarantee you they did not get there effortlessly. They put in a lot of work, a lot of toil, and over the years, that created a person who's living a good life. Whether they're physically healthy, emotionally healthy, or spiritually healthy, they put in work to get there, a lot of work. And now we see the fruits of their labor. Now take a moment and think of a field filled with weeds. It does grow weeds, lots of them, but usually nothing's done to cultivate that field. It's just left to do whatever nature's going to do. There's no effort, there's no tending. It's just whatever blows onto that field, that's what it grows, and it can be a mishmash of all kinds of things. And sometimes, like I said, it can even be hemlock. Now, every once in a while, you may see some fruits and berries grown there randomly, but for the most part, it's just weeds and nothing that other people want. But things are growing there. There's still produce. It's just produce that doesn't do any good to anyone and potentially can even be harmful. If you've ever been on a hiking trail and it's one that people haven't been on for a while, it hasn't been tended, sometimes there'll be poison oak or poison ivy all over the place, and you have to be so careful where you're walking. Otherwise, you're going to be itching terribly later in the day. So how do we grow weeds into our lives, into our minds? What has to be planted into our souls that years later turn into anger issues, depression, anxiety, and all the other things in our lives that make our lives miserable, like a weeded field? And when weeds are growing out of our mind because of the things we planted, we're not going to do much to help the world. And sometimes we actually grow hemlock in our minds, metaphorically, so that not only do we not help the world, we're actually hurting the world around us. When my grandfather had his fields that he grew fruits and vegetables on, he went there every day to make sure it was growing well, that there weren't weeds, that everything was good, so that towards the end of the season, he could go there, get his bags of food, and give them to others. If he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have got as much produce as he did. So the Mother Teresas of our lives, the Mr. Rogers of our world, they did not get there accidentally. They spent a lot of time and effort in cultivating who they were. Mr. Rogers' wife told people that Fred worked on who he was, on being the kind Mr. Rogers who he was. It didn't just happen, he worked on it. Now most of us are not going to reach this level, but we're going to still grow something in our minds. The question is, what are we planning? How are we attending our field, our minds every day? Because whatever we plant, that's going to grow. The part that often we don't understand is everything that we expose ourselves to is planting things in our mind. Everything. And these things grow and turn into things. I can't even tell you over the years how many people I've worked with. The wife comes in and she says, my husband's retired now, but he's so depressed. Sometimes he's even angry. I don't know what to do or what's causing it. So I ask her, well, how does he spend his day? Metaphorically, how is he tending his field? What is he planning in his field or in his mind throughout the day? And she'll tell me, well, he watches and keeps up with the news and spends a lot of time watching the news. And what's the main message of the news? It's there to report negative things around the world. So because he's planning negative images, he's getting negative growth. We may laugh and say, well, that's just some old guy. Who cares about him? He made bad choices throughout his life and he just has to live with that. But what about us? What are we exposing ourselves to throughout the day? We now have access to a very powerful computer called our phone that lets us see all kinds of things throughout the world. And the tech industry has spent billions and billions of dollars to make sure we keep watching. And remember, everything that we expose ourselves to is planting things in our minds, and it will grow from whatever is planted. What difference will we see, or what will grow from spending 2 hours a day watching cooking shows versus 2 hours a day watching politically violent shows to watching 2 hours a day of perhaps spiritual growth shows? What is happening here is our minds don't care what we plant. It's just going to make sure that whatever we plant grows there. So every conversation, every thought, everything we watch, everything we listen to, everything we see is going to grow. The question is, what are we growing throughout the day? This is where we get caught. If we aren't actively cultivating and growing good things in our minds, then we're going to end up with a weed field, a weed mind, which isn't going to have much to contribute to our lives unless we're a little bit lucky and some blueberry seeds land on our field. For the most part, it's just going to be a weed field contributing very little or nothing to our lives and nothing that we can share with the rest of the world. If we want to have a happy life, a good life, we can't have it accidentally. We have to actively participate in growing that type of life. Everything we expose ourselves to, everything we watch, everything we listen to, every conversation we have, every thought that we let permeate through our minds throughout the day impacts us. And that's what our minds grow, whatever these things we're exposed to. Could you imagine coming to a field of beautiful fruits and vegetables in very specific rows, ripe, juicy, and just wonderful, and think, oh, this is just a random field that got there all by itself? If you said that or even thought that, people would think you're rather silly. Yes, maybe 1 in 10,000 times that could happen, or 10 trillion times, but it's not going to happen very often, if ever. When we see a well-toiled field with beautiful fruits and vegetables, we know a gardener's actively creating that. It's the same way when someone is having a good life. They have actively created that through toil and effort each and every day. And through all that hard work, they now have produce, good produce, results from that effort. And not only that, like my grandfather, they now can go around the world and share that with their friends, family, and just other people, making other people who may be struggling lives better. Because my grandfather had so much excess fruits and vegetables from his 3 acres, he every single day went to the garden, did his work, picked his fruits and vegetables, put them in bags, and brought them to people in the town that he lived in throughout the summer. It was truly an honor and a privilege to experience that with him. But we too can do that in our lives. We can cultivate good lives for ourselves through paying really good attention to what we're feeding, what we're planting in our minds. And from that growth, we can not only make our lives better, but the people in our lives, their lives better too. But it's so much easier to just let our minds be like a weed field and grow whatever grows there. Just do what we want to do, not thinking about what the results of planting this in our mind is. And then what will result will be a weed field that not only doesn't benefit our lives, but will have nothing to share with other people either in our lives. And sometimes, sadly, hemlock or things like that grow in our mind, and that's what we share with the world. We as psychologists have studied the dark people of our world, the people that truly cause so much harm to other people, like Hitler, and they always have very challenging, dark childhoods with lots of pain. Most likely none of us are going to ever go down this path, but if we don't do anything, if we just live life without thinking about what we're planning in our minds, just doing it because it feels good, because it sounds like fun, I think we're going to find that that's going to turn into a weed field. And now with tech becoming a big part of most of our lives, it's going to want us to stay on our screens. So it's going to give us things that create a dopamine effect, that thrill us, that excite us, that keep us watching. But if we're not careful, if we're not actively participating in everything that we do and asking this question, what am I planning in my mind right now? We're going to end up with a weed field. And we don't have to. We can end up with the most beautiful garden we've ever seen. It just takes work. It takes effort. And it's so worth it. Perhaps for the next few weeks or even the next couple days, ask ourselves, whatever we're doing, whatever thought we're having, whatever conversation we're participating in, whatever thing we're listening to or watching, ask, what is this planning in my mind? Because it's going to grow into something. Is it going to grow into a beautiful garden that I can now share with other people? Or is it going to turn into a weed or even hemlock? Every choice we make matters. But the good news is, no matter how many weeds are in our mind garden right now, our mind acreage, we can still get into cultivating it, changing it, and start growing really good fruits and vegetables that we can share with our world. When we do this, the results are truly beautiful. We can all have beautiful gardens. It just takes work. It just takes effort. But it's so worth it. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. Until next time, accept what is, love what is.